Hello again, and welcome to Interlace.io's third installment of our cybersecurity question and answer. My name is Mallory Randall, and I'm the Director of Marketing. I'm joined once again by our Director of Cybersecurity, Zach Sherf, and today we're talking about information security assessments and the different types of assessments you may encounter.
Thanks, Mallory. There are 4 basic types of assessments, as well as some additional information I'm excited to share today. Hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a better understanding and some familiarity of these common assessments, as well as when you may use them. Starting off with a risk assessment. A risk assessment is a likelihood and impact weighted exploit report. A risk assessment takes vulnerabilities and weighs them against 2 key factors, likelihood multiplied by impact. Technically, there is a vulnerability buildings faced due to the impacts of a snowstorm in Southern California. The impact of these vulnerabilities is high, but the infrastructure cannot handle it. But because the likelihood is close to 0, the risk is low. A risk assessment helps companies understand where their actual risks are, not just their vulnerabilities. Think of it as a filter of what to focus on. Moving on to a penetration test tries to break in. Pen testing uses a combination of automated tools and personal expertise to break a system. Basically, you contact a professional thief and tell them to steal from you, and then tell them to tell you how they did it. The output of a pen test is identified vulnerabilities. One additional type of assessment you may face would be a vulnerability assessment. A vulnerability assessment is a detailed overview of potential exploits. A vulnerability assessment gathers data from multiple sources, including pen testing, automated scanning tools, and manual data collection such as interviews to give you a list of every known vulnerability. This information is useful but can be overwhelming. Think about if you asked for a list of every possible way to break into your house, including things like someone drilling a hole through the ground to get in. It's technically a vulnerability, so a vulnerability assessment would have to list it, but that's where a risk assessment would filter that information out to make it more useful. The final assessment type I'd love to cover today is a gap assessment. A gap assessment is a comparison of current risk tolerance of a business versus industry standards. A gap assessment helps companies identify a gap between where they are today and where they would want to be, usually based around a standard such as SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA, GDPR, etc. Gap assessments help companies understand a plan of actions and milestones required to achieve their compliance goals. One additional component I'd like to cover because it's related is an attestation. An attestation is effectively a third party verifying your compliance publicly. Companies seeking attestation to a standard such as SOC 2 are looking for a verified party to attest that they're meeting all of the goals of that standard. Somebody at a verified security consultancy may be able to help at every point up to the attestation. However, to actually attest, you would want a third party to come in and say, we checked their work, we can guarantee it's accurate, and we're going to give you that seal of approval. That seal of approval can be really valuable because it helps your partners and future vendors know that you're meeting security to not just your own standard, but to a publicly held standard.
Got it. Well, thanks, Zach. That was a ton of information, but if I'm a business, what's the best place to start?
Yeah, so I understand even with all this information, it can still be a little bit intimidating. As we discussed in part 2, you can't secure what you don't know. So a great place to start is by contacting a security expert to collaboratively determine the best place to start. Sometimes that's a risk assessment, but it's really good to talk to an expert so you can plan out that journey together.
Well, navigating the world of IT alone can be daunting, but it doesn't have to be. This video is part 3 of a 4-part series in honor of Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so make sure to subscribe to our channel below so you can see more videos like these. To learn more about how our people-centered IT experts at Interlace can give you supreme cyber confidence, visit interlace.io/contact. See you soon.